In this episode, we will explore how to sequence and chunk the principles that you described in the previous unit into a sound and logical path of learning that will facilitate your learners to successfully work through the course to the achievement of the learning outcomes and fulfill the purpose of the course. First, review all the principles that you have identified for the whole course and look for the most logical sequence that these principles can be learned. Consider what the easiest way for your learners to learn these principles, especially considering how they will build on each other. One common approach is to start with the basic or simpler principles and put them earlier in the sequence, and then put the more complicated and challenging ones to learn and perform later in the sequence. The start of your sequence should begin with the entry-level principles for your course and end with the course learning outcome being achieved. Another approach is to focus more on understanding the principles earlier in the sequence and employing the principles later in the sequence. But be careful with this because it can make it challenging for the learners to make the proper connections between theory and practice. This is an excellent time to add more principles to your sequence that haven't been identified yet. Now that your focus of designing is at the course level, it is normal that you will see places where more principles are required. Consider the guiding question. What other principles need to be learned in the course to help the learner achieve the course learning outcome? Now that you have your sequence looking logical and complete, you need to chunk the sequence of principles into clusters that have common themes or ideas. A good number of clusters in a course is about 3 to 5, with about 2 to 4 principles in each cluster. If you have too many clusters, consider combining them. One final check that you should do at this point is to review your sequence of clusters to check on how well they articulate with each other. Will some of the clusters early in the course help the learners prepare for clusters later in the course? Review the modules within this unit and consider if they could have been sequenced or clustered better. In summary, the 4 principles that you should remember and be able to employ from this presentation are: 1. People learn new principles best by associating them with principles they have previously learned. 2. Learning paths can be mapped out to help learners learn several principles more successfully. 3. Modules are best designed based on clusters of principles sequenced at the course level. And 4. The ideal number of clusters of principles for a course is 3 to 5.